A number of gang members turned up. Some of them kept their patches on. There were some Comancheros guys that we saw that were wearing their patches. And the gang patch ban comes in on Thursday, actually, Ben. Thursday that comes in. But a lot of them had taken off their patches and they had new patch-like T-shirts they were wearing that still had their gang colours and everything. But I think we're going to see a lot of very creative responses to the gang patch ban. And sitting out the back in the pub, and Ben, it'd be fair to say they were the staunchest looking people we saw all day, that bunch of guys, right?
Yeah. They
were,
had the face tattoos.
They had the full face tattoos, and, you would, every single prejudice you'd have about criminals and gang members, you'd look at them and bang, you got triggered, right? Let's be honest.
If I was just being stereotypical, if I was coming up with an archetypical, staunch sort of gang member criminal type thing, it wouldn't be far from that. But then, you get to talking.
Yeah,
and have a few beers.
I got to talking and you'd shout someone a beer and the world changes. And the guys we ended up talking to, well, they were gang members. One of them grew up in Porirua, which is where I spent much of my formative years. So we had something in common and we started talking. His name was Dylan, and here's my conversation with Dylan. Okay, this is another kind of off-the-cuff report from the loading bay at the back bencher in the wake of the unprecedented rally at Parliament today. And we're talking to Dylan. And Dylan, I just want to get the descriptor for you right. You are a no longer patched member.
That's correct.
Of
the Black Power Gang.
The Black Power Gang. That's all right. So Dylan, I want to ask you first, mate. Why were you here today? Because you're from Auckland. What brought you down here?
Well, first and foremost, I came here to represent my children. Obviously, with this new bill that's going into play, it's going to affect them. So I've come here to represent them. Secondly, I've come to represent my people and to make a stand.
Dylan, the other thing, there are a lot of gang members here today.
Yes.
You don't have your patch on, and I understand you've kind of turned in your patch. But it looked to me like there was no aggro between gangs today. It was like there was some sort of truce. That's pretty unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct too. To be honest with you, another big thing about today was what I found anyway was the whole piece with the whole gang thing. There's a lot of colours that turned up today: blue, yellow, green, red, white. There was a lot of different colours, and one thing that made it special was that all the colours came together. Ko taitanga, come together as one, and that was the message that they told us today. Ko taitanga, coming together. I didn't even know what that word meant until today.
Have you ever experienced that before in your life as a gang member?
Well, never ever have I ever come across a place where I've sat in a place where there's been multiple gangs. No, I haven't, never. There's never ever been a thing to me.
Look, the other thing I want to say is, obviously you have been told, and one of the reasons you came here was that the Treaty Principles Bill is a threat to Māori, is a threat to your kids, is a threat to you and your culture. The truth is that this bill is never going to be passed into law. After 6 months, it's going to be thrown out by a vote. It's just got no chance. It's like dead in the water.
Yep.
But you weren't told that, and you didn't believe that when you came here today.
Oh, most definitely not. I honestly thought by what the media has said that sort of like the world was going to end. It was sort of like so many days before the world ends. So to me and for my peers, it was sort of like, let's get down and sort of sort this out before it gets serious. So and our impression and the idea that we had was that it was quite a serious thing that we were going to lose all rights to being Māori, and that was just the impression that we got from the media.
I'm sorry, bro, but that is not true. That's not the case. Yeah. Do you feel like you were lied to, or do you still feel that something good came out of today for you?
Well, yeah. I mean, like that definitely wasn't the case. I mean, I guess a positive thing for me was that it was a peaceful day. What I mean by peaceful day is that there was no violence, there was no in any sort. So yeah, everyone kept to themselves. Everyone was peaceful, and I might have even looked one way and sort of nodded my head and sort of done the old bro wave, like that's never ever happened. You don't give other gangs the old bro wave or whatever like that, And then what I mean by bro wave is the old head nod.
So, is this like a big day for you? Going to look and say that was a pretty special day?
Well, to be honest, it's the first time this has ever happened in my life. I've never ever actually been in a place where I've acknowledged another gang member. So it was a significant time in my it was life changing. It was life changing. I never thought I'd ever see me or my peers or my brothers, let alone my president, be around other gangs and stuff, because I thought that we were anti. Obviously not. Obviously there's a bigger purpose and a bigger purpose for us and that's coming together and being peaceful, and obviously we showed it today.
Can I just say thank you? Thank you for having a chat with me, because I think this is relatively unusual too.
Yeah, can I just say much respects? Good on you.
So there you go, Dylan, and I'm going to talk a bit more about Dylan. That was a very interesting encounter. Dylan was Black Power. He said, my dad's mongrel mob. And I said, how did that happen? He said, I really hated my dad. He was a terrible bugger, and I wanted to be exactly the opposite of him. But Dylan's brain didn't seem that means I'm going to be a lawyer and go straight. It was I'm going to join the opposite gang. And I think he gets the irony of that. We had some remarkable conversations yesterday, didn't we, Ben?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And
Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think they were telling. I think they showed quite a bit. They told us quite a bit about who was there and why they were there and what they'd been listening to. Because you never know these days what people are listening to get their views.
I didn't feel like we were talking to Māori radicals. I felt we were talking to other New Zealanders who, want to talk about what's happening in New Zealand. I didn't feel like they wanted to run me off my land or thought I was a colonial oppressor.
No, and you get that feeling, don't you? You go to the pub afterwards, which is where they've all kind of come together afterwards, and you have a few beers, and you just start having a conversation, and that's what that was. You got to talking. We didn't switch the microphone on and shove it in people's face. It kind of just came organically, and they had some salient things to say. Yeah, and no, it was an interesting day. Yeah,
it sure was. I want to say thank you to everyone who did talk to us. And now let's pick that apart. I hope I have given you a feeling for what Ben and I experienced yesterday and what it was like being there. And could I also say I absolutely recommend you get on our social media channels, our YouTube, on the app. Check us out on Twitter and everything. We've got video to go with all those interviews. And old Dylan put a cap on so you couldn't see the, what was it, FYCY? Or
some form of, profanity.
So he had the full face tats. I'm glad. That was one of the most enjoyable conversations I had yesterday, and I'm going to get in contact with Dylan. I think he's an interesting dude.